Hey everyone, welcome back to Talking Cardboard. On this episode, we're going to talk about games we wish had expansions. As always, if you like what you see or expect to like what you're going to see, click the like below, subscribe, leave some comments. We would love to get discussion going on this topic because I think this could be really cool, especially since we're in the golden age of board gaming. Without further ado, let's get rolling. As usual, we have myself, Jurch, in the middle. We've got Cory to my left, John to my right. And this little segment is kind of a brainchild that we're working on, and we talk from time to time, oh, this game was great if we could just do this, or can we change that rule so then we can allow this, or why can't we have a fifth player for this, or stuff like that. So I'm sure that you all have gone through a lot of similar situations where you wish that things were tweaked just a little bit. And in this section, we're going to start talking about some games we wish had an expansion, or if it already has an expansion, another one, or what we wish would kind of expand on a tried and true game we love.
Yep.
So Cory, you want to get us started off with your game?
Yeah, so my game, I have not brought to the table with this group at all. I think I've brought it to the table with a couple of my brothers maybe, but that's it. But the reason why it hasn't reached the table very often, or if at all, within this group is because it needs an expansion, in my opinion. And this game does not have an expansion at all. This game is called Pie Town. Have you guys heard of Pie Town?
I've wanted to visit Pie Town.
I've seen it on your shelf.
Yes. So Pie Town came out in 2017, so it's about 4 years old now, and there hasn't been any talk about an expansion. Hasn't probably reached the table since 2017. It's a dice worker placement game where you're sending out different values of dice to different worker placement spots. And depending on the value of your dice is how many ingredients you can collect, or how many pies you can bake, or sending them to like the baking contest area to sell off your pies for victory points. The really cool thing in this game is that every player starts off with a secret recipe in a hidden box at the beginning of the game. And based on what your secret recipe is, if you can somehow make a pie of that secret recipe and deliver it to the pie contest without people knowing what your ingredients are, you get more points for your secret pie. So you can send off like normal apple pies, or you can have like bananas in your pie and get more points because those are more rare fruit and that sort of thing. But if you can send off an exact recipe of your secret recipe, you get the most points for it. What's neat about that is there's a mechanism in the game that you can place a higher value die on top of one of your opponent's dice. So let's say if they have like a 3 die on a spot, you can put like a number 4 die on top of it to spy on their ingredients.
Okay.
So you get to still take the action of that worker placement spot, but because your die was a higher value, you get to randomly pull one ingredient out of their hidden basket to see what it is. And you have a whiteboard that you can mark off what that ingredient was. And eventually, if you can deduce or do it enough times to see exactly what their secret recipe is, you can start building their secret recipe to get the most points out of your pies too. So now you've kind of got 2 secret recipes. The reason why this game needs an expansion is I feel like it needs an expansion that deals more with the hidden information, and it's just super light, super easy. It doesn't seem like it's got enough depth to it to bring it to the table. Because really all you're doing is just gathering the resources, building the pies, and delivering them for points. But I wish there's a little bit more to do with maybe an expansion that adds a deck of cards that you can go to a spot and maybe get, like in Lords of Waterdeep, those intrigue cards, or the intrigue cards.
So the pie thickens.
Yes, that could be the title of the expansion. Aren't they called intrigue cards in Dune Imperium too? Same sort of deal. That just adds a little bit of a twist to the game. Like maybe you can spy on 2 ingredients out of somebody's secret recipe, or switch up your ingredients in your secret recipe so now they're thrown off a little bit, or just something to make it a little bit more strategic, a little bit more going on, because it's just at its core in the base game is just a super simple entry level dice worker placement game, and I just wish there's a little bit more to it. So that's my pick, is Pie Town.
I really want pie right now. You kind of sold me on the game Pie Town too.
Yeah.
But I really just want pie.
It's a really cool concept. It's really neat. I mean, you don't see that hidden information trying to build out ingredients in a pie with that hidden information on top of dice or worker placement. And it sounds cooler than what it really is, because it's honestly just a super light, simple game that needs a more gamer weight strategy added to it.
Okay.
Needs an expansion for it.
Okay. So, well, that's a really interesting take. It's a good way to lead off. And my game actually is food themed as well. I've been able to bring Sushi Go to the table a lot with my family at home. It's a super lightweight. It's a cutesy game. Yep. But I think, at least for me, it could use an expansion that adds a little bit extra depth to it. Maybe a little bit more player interaction.
More sushis?
Well, yes, you should definitely have more sushis and more different types of food with it, because that's near infinite. But then also some cards that can have a little bit more direct interaction with other players, because I know in Sushi Go it's a card drafting, and then you're passing to your left, and everybody's acting simultaneously, so there's not a whole lot of interaction. So it's nice and light for people who aren't really heavy gamers. But it'd be nice to have a few wrinkles that would maybe leave an option or a couple options where you could throw those into the game and make it a little bit more combative. And if not, that's totally fine, but then that would be a way for me to kind of usher in my family to more in-depth strategic types of games. So that's an expansion that I wish Sushi Go had.
Yeah. And they have Sushi Go Party that adds a little bit of variation with the types of food that you're gathering. Yes. But like you said, at its heart, it's just set collection, drafting, pass the cards around, super light and simple. But that's definitely one I got rid of, but I would probably rebuy if they had an expansion that made it a little bit more gamery. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and John, anything on Sushi Go? Because I know you're not really a fan of eating healthy or fish.
Or sushi.
Which is that?
I played it. It was fun. It could use an expansion.
Excellent.
Thanks.
Speaking of expansions, John, what game do you think could use an expansion?
So the game I think needs an expansion is actually a really great game, and maybe it's not even possible to get it an expansion. I don't really know. Haven't thought this through the best, but that is Horrified. Love Horrified. But there's 6 monsters in the box, and the board state always essentially starts off very similar. There's no changing of the locations that you're trying to go to. And it's probably because it's super balanced, depending on what monsters get added. But again, I think it could just use something where maybe there's a secondary board that changes things up a little bit, or maybe there's some movies they haven't tapped into yet and can throw a couple more monsters in that box, because now that we've played it quite a bit, and while it's always fun playing with new people, seeing it for the first time and judging how they're going to treat the monsters, if you're playing with the same group and you've played this game 10 to 20 times, you're kind of getting strategies down that you're going to repeat every time you play the game. Yeah. And it gets a little stale. I mean, it's still really fun, I'd say, but there's just a little bit that could be added. It would reinvigorate this game and keep it fresh, I think. And I mean, it's a fun game, so I'd love to see the lifespan of it be extended.
I think the world of Horrified leaves a lot where you can be adding in new movie monsters, or a different setting, a different part of the board where you have to go underground or things like that.
Yeah.
And we know with this game that when you're having 2 or 3 monsters, the combination does fundamentally change your strategy in your game anyways. So throwing in 3 or 4 more monsters would add in so much more depth to what's going on. Yeah. Do you guys think of any mechanic that could change or be added, or type of thing that we could draw on from a different game to...
I think one thing I was thinking of that could be cool, I mean, I'm sure this is licensed through the Universal Studios, since that's the monsters in this game, but maybe somewhere down the line they also get a partnership with whoever does Friday the 13th or other horror movies, and now all of a sudden you throw those monsters in, and maybe even on top of that, now you're adding in something there's certain aspects that the monsters interact with each other instead of just with the players. Yeah. I don't know, there's a few different things. Obviously balancing, I'm sure, would be tough, and play testing, all that, but I think there's a lot of really cool things you could do with any expansions to this game.
Yeah, that is really cool.
It's kind of the third game mentioned tonight that we want to be a little bit more gamery.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of for us, right? This is our list and what we want to see with these games, what we want to see happen, but the Horrified's a great pick. It's one that I wish I would have thought of too, but obviously we're covering it here, and it's one that I definitely agree could use an expansion for that. I think mechanically, kind of piggyback off of what Pandemic did so well is maybe interaction with players a little bit more. Like
Yep.
if you're in a spot with a person, you can do a certain thing.
Other than just trade.
Yeah, other than just trade. It's just kind of like the blue, the yellow, or the red resources, but maybe like turning them in for different items or trying to more combo or
Like if there's a
More
combination
strategy.
or a market type of.
yeah, just something a little bit less. This is what it is. Collect it and turn them into these monsters to finish them. Just a little bit more.
Where the candlestick is essentially worth the same as the revolver or the crucifix, like
Yeah, where if they had
the items
some.
could be more dynamic.
Yep.
Almost
yep.
like what Betrayal at House on a Hill does is those items are different and varied and change your game,
Yeah.
but maybe not quite as heavy
Yeah.
as what that is. Yeah.
How cool would that be if you had to search for the candlestick in order to get to a certain section on the board that's a
Right.
dark area, just to investigate that for the revolver, and then have to bring that somewhere, and maybe make it to where it's still about defeating the monsters, but it's also got maybe some more story theme to it.
Yeah, and exploring this world that you have there, this town. Yeah.
They could do a lot with it.
Then we're just playing
Absolutely.
Mansions of Madness.
When you go up to the graveyard and then you open up a new board with a graveyard on it, and but
So then
No, I
just
definitely agree.
just foray into that a little bit. Yeah, and then that would be great and add to that storytelling element without the game being as quite specific as Betrayal at House on a Hill.
Right. Yep.
Or as involved as Mansions of Madness or any of that stuff. Yeah, like that would be great.
nothing like that. Just mechanically thematic. You don't really have to add a ton of story to it, I don't think.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Just like, oh, this makes sense with this because it makes thematic sense.
Yep.
Right now it's just, oh, it's a blue thing, so let's turn it in for the blue monster. You know?
Yeah. So that's our first initial thoughts on games that we wish had expansions or expansions we wish existed for some of our games. Let us know your thoughts. If there are anybody from these developing companies that have insights as to if these are in the works, that would be
Or if you want to talk, we're here.
Yeah, exactly. We got a development team going on
For
right
what
here.
it's worth.
Yeah, that this is it's just a little way to kind of hypothetical what would we want to see, because there are so many expansions for games that come out with the game that we're thinking what other games could use a bit of a tune-up or a little addition to it. So, as always, let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the subscribe, hit the like, and until next time, play more games, enjoy your expansions, and we'll see you here.